Hello, good afternoon or almost afternoon, a minute to, I think. We're just waiting just a second for people to get in here, and thank you for recording this, Beth Kay. Oh, good. Laura Kenny's here. We can start. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. We have other folks who are going to join us, but I think we should start and end on time because we're going to record this. So I'm fine with folks zooming in. Beth Kay, you can let them in or you don't have to have a waiting room. All right. So welcome to Friday. I'm Karen Simmons from the Community Foundation, and I hope you're joining in today to learn about fundraising, especially for 250 initiatives. We have Corinne Sylvia, who is half of Sylvia Carter. Carter got called away, so Sylvia's here to continue onward. And we will record the session plus send out the handouts and also have them online for people. So all kinds of good information. How about, since it's a small group now, we want to know who's who. Could we go around and introduce yourself and like what part of the county you're from and how much do you know, a lot or a little about 250? Because that will help us quickly overview 250 and go into the fundraising planning part. So I'm Karen Simmons, and in my spare time, I try to organize 250 events for Chester County. Ably held by Angela Scully, who's laughing, so you better unmute yourself and say hello.
Hi, I'm Angela Scully. I'm working with the Chester County Community Foundation as an outreach officer and doing fundraising for Chester County 250.
And Beth Kay is our marketing guru. Beth, you want to get voices here?
Yeah, I'm Beth Krallis. I do the marketing and communications. So I know a lot about 250, and I work in Westchester, and I live over the line in northern Delaware.
And Laura, can you introduce yourself with your many hats?
I'm Laura Kennedy. I am primarily the advancement manager for Founding Forward, which was formerly Freedom's Foundation at Valley Forge. We are in Valley Forge adjacent to the park. We do civic engagement and civic education initiatives, and we are planning to do a lot of stuff for the 250. So because I actually happen to be the only staff member who lives in Chester County, I have been voluntold to be the lead for all Chester County 250 things. My other hat is that I am also the president and director of operations for the Brandywine Singers, which is a semi-professional community choral ensemble here in Westchester. I live downtown, about 2 blocks from the Community Foundation. So that's me.
Thank you, Laura. And Stacy, do you introduce yourself, please?
Hey there, I'm Stacy Ballard. I'm with Easttown Township, and the company that I work for is Ida Enterprises, which supports my habit of volunteering for crazy stuff like this. So we are Berwyn, Devon area, and working on a plan. So here we are.
Hi,
Yes, you
Stacy.
are.
It's Angela.
I know, I see you.
And Ida does heritage buildings. What is Ida?
So Ida Enterprises is a privately owned family business. We are in the state development, management, and leasing business. So we are all women owned, we are family owned, and we're primarily in the main line. So we own shopping centers, office buildings, apartment buildings, a mobile home park, a little bit of everything. And our sweet spot is Wayne to, say, the Malvern Fraser area.
Right.
And we're heavily involved in the community through the veterans, through Rotary, through the business association, through right now they're hanging Christmas lights. Like we do, we have a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you're here. Great, thank you. And Allie?
Yes, hello. My name is Allie Kaczynski. I am the development coordinator for the Valley Forge Park Alliance. So Laura, we haven't met yet, but nice to meet you. I'm sure we'll be crossing paths. I essentially handle membership, fundraising, outreach, those sorts of things. So we are, and I'm also Chester County based, though the park kind of sits in 2 counties. So I'm in the Downingtown area, so I'm currently remote, and so I'm out there every other week when we have events and things, and we'll soon be in our new headquarters in the park, but we are just kind of gearing up. I'm pretty familiar though with the 250th, so.
Yeah. You want
Yeah.
to talk about the new headquarters in the park? Because I don't think everybody really knows about that.
Sure. So at its briefest, the Maurice Stevens House will be the Alliance's new headquarters. It is a historic building that's in the park. If you're familiar with Route 23 and the Washington Memorial Chapel, it sits directly across the street and downhill. And so that building is soon about to be, we're hoping early 2025, but that'll be a public cafe, our offices, programming space, and just kind of a community hub, which is really exciting. So we had a capital campaign that has officially reached its goal, and our construction starts because we've partnered with the park on that project. So the park's construction is wrapping up. Our part of the construction is beginning, and we're estimating being in there no later than mid-January. So keep your eyes peeled for that, but it's really exciting. We're eager to be in there.
Great, great.
Allie,
Terry-
we should talk after this and set a meeting to talk about the trail that we're hoping to build.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just let me know.
Good, good. Terry Dickinson.
That's me. Hi, I'm Terry. I don't know a whole lot about this. I didn't get to go to the meeting in the summer. I was away, but I am the chairperson of East Fallowfield Township Parks and Rec and the Environmental Advisory Council. I'm the eternal volunteer. That's what happens when you retire.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to promote this as an activity in our park. So I'm just now learning. We do 8 to 11 free events every year in our park for people, and I thought this would be a good project to work with our historical commission and get a project going for ready for 250.
Sounds great. And Terry, we'd love to hook up more after it because we've been looking for East Fallowfield, so we found you. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Dan Campbell, our architect here. Sir, good to see you again.
Hello, I'm on the Historical Commission in Westtown Township, which we don't have a whole lot of historic sites, but we have a mansion from the 1890s that's our focus of our history, and it's a good location for presentation, so we hope to use that in the future. Right now, we're giving historical talks monthly in our township hall on Route 202, which is accessible and has plenty of parking and such. Tomorrow, we've invited our public to come and see the 250 PowerPoint that's been given out by the foundation, and
Great.
a little movie and so on.
And you talk about the mansion, you're talking Oakbourne, right?
Yes, Oakbourne Mansion.
You guys had an incredible Westtown Family Day 2 weeks ago, and I have never seen Oakbourne look so vibrant. That whole, beautiful.
Well, thank you. That's
Thank
something
you.
we came up with about 8 years ago, and it's been going well.
Yeah. Excellent. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And Cookie Washington, can you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, Cookie Washington. I'm with the Westchester branch of the NAACP. I live in the borough of Westchester, and I work at the Charles A. Melton Arts and Education Center. And I'm here to learn because we all need to tell our story and be remembered and noted.
Much so. Cookie, I hope you stop in sometime when you're walking by.
Okay.
Thank you. S. Brown.
Hi, it's Steve Brown. I'm a retired architect. I'm out in Wagontown in West Callan Township, former board member of the Chester County Historic Preservation Network, and just sort of been in on all these Zoom meetings from its inception to make sure that we can do our part out here in the western part of the county to celebrate the 250 celebration.
Excellent. glad that you keep coming back and we'll figure this out. Tom Walsh, can you introduce yourself? All right, the man who needs no introduction and is also muted. There you go, Tom.
Tom Walsh, Chair of the Westchester Historical Commission. I may be in and out here, but I thought I would get on. And
We'll take you when we can get you,
missed
Tom. We'll take you when we can get you. Good.
Okay, I missed the last one you had, and so on and so on. And we are working on things for Lafayette next year, but I did want to clue in a little bit on this.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Jason, I see you just zoomed in from our Community Foundation staff.
Hey, how are you? Good afternoon. Jason Arbacheski, Chester County Community Foundation. I'm also working on the Chester County 250 Initiative. It's good to be here with you all.
Jason's helping us with fundraising, so you can be real on how it's going and how it's not going. So you see the handout on your slide, or the slide on your screen, which I guess I moved forward to. So Corinne, I'm just going to take a couple minutes to go over 250. And if people want more information, you know where I am. And as you know, 2026, it's happening, not just the national level, but statewide and countywide. And in Chester County, we are trying to help everybody figure out what they can do to help everybody encounter not only how Chester County participated in the founding of our country in 1776 and thereabouts, but also, as Cookie alluded to, also elevate everybody's understanding of our continuing journey to build a more perfect union. So it's a mix of heritage, culture, past, present, and future. And the overarching aims of 250, the mission statement is right there again. And what we're trying to do is help sites that want to offer things that are more interactive to get ready for what we hope we know is be an influx of visitors, tourists, local, and also whatever events are already going on throughout this region, there are thousands of them, to make sure that there's a liberty and justice for all, or let freedom ring component to those events. We don't want to create tons of new ones. We want to overlay what's already happening because there's so much going on. There are so many themes related to Chester County particularly, and based on the Heritage Plan. Of course, the agricultural bounty, which is the feeding of a country that helped our nation get started, continues to this day. And also iron, steel, paved the way for incredible technology industry flourishing. So we literally forged our nation's independence because of the iron and steel in Chester County. And that continues to this day to really help us be a leader. Of course, the Philly campaign is the most obvious revolutionary. And so much of Chester County is right in the sacred ground where the Philadelphia campaign was fought, from the Battle of Brandywine to the clouds to Paoli, over to get some more ammunition over to the furnaces, and then up to Chester Springs and marching into Valley Forge for that winter after Germantown in Chester didn't work out as what we planned. So telling the story of the Philly campaign and its lessons learned that can influence us to this day is a real important part of 250. And the unfinished business, the path to freedom. Because of our location at the Mason-Dixon line, and also because of the Quaker influence, Chester County has been really influential when it comes to the Underground Railroad, women's suffrage, and civil rights. So the unfinished business of the revolution is to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all. So we have some unfinished business to get in there too. So these are some of the overarching themes. We're hoping that you all can help tell those stories throughout 250, whether it is the power of the very place or the civic engagement in our rights as a nation. We are trying to help everybody tell the stories that need to be told. And it's really, the fact is, there's a ton of excitement really starting to evolve Route 250. And I'm going to be the first one to say loud and clear that there's little direct accessible funding. And it's really been fascinating to see people be interested in it and want to do things or want to encourage it, but not coming forward with funding yet. And it could be timing. We're going to find out. We're working hard. And I guess I was a little comforted to find out, because I am not a historian, that it's not like the Revolutionary War was well funded and well organized. So sorry to say, we have run into these problems before, and we are really trying to spread the word that 250 is coming, because awareness is the first part, and then work with all levels to get diversified funding from government sources, elected officials, from corporations, foundations, individuals. We are really trying to cultivate every levels of interest in 250 and funding as well. And it's a process, right? So part of, I think, what will really help is the fact is a good diversified fundraising plan makes a difference. And Corinne, did you want to kind of go into it starting from here, sort of the background to what makes for a good diversified fundraising plan?
Yes, I did. And I'd also encourage both you and Angela, as I present, I'm not the only arbiter of all information here. You two are on the ground doing this work. So if there are things that you want to add, please feel free to jump in, because I think more information is better than less.
Deal.
Okay. Hi, Corinne Sylvia here. I'm really glad to be here and talk to you about fundraising for Chester County 250. This is the first of many presentations designed to help you successfully raise funds for the Chester County 250 celebration. The topics presented today will also be addressed in greater detail on the third Friday of each month through July 2025. So this is not the only place you're going to get information. As the months go on, you'll find that you will be invited to other sessions that will probably do a deeper dive into each of these topics. So stay tuned. It's going to be very beneficial for you and your organization to learn how to raise money for this, because this is a very challenging project to raise money for. Absolutely. And as we go through the documents, you'll get a greater feel for that. But Chester County Foundation and its staff and volunteers are here to help you, so don't despair. We have your back. So let's begin. As you begin to fundraise, it helps to have these following items. And this slide is a bit of a laundry list of all of the different things that we need to think about before we even begin to plan. These are the kinds of things that we need to have a bit of a handle on before we begin to write our plan and implement our plan. So think of this slide as an inventory of all the resources that you will need to raise funds. Obviously, we need people. A team of 5 or more people and 2 co-captains will be needed to assist with management and follow-up. So be thinking about that. You'll also need a case for support, which includes strong, compelling information to support your fundraising. Your case needs to be written in a way that is easily understood by the community, and you're going to want to create a case for each individual project that you are pursuing. Now, it goes without saying that a positive image in the community is really important for fundraising. What we know from research is that donors tend to be more supportive of organizations whose track record is good and strong and whose board is well recognized in the community. So you need a positive public image as well. Well, having a development plan is an important tool, and the plan needs to include all of the potential funding sources you will solicit. And that might include corporations, individuals, foundations, government contracts, and events. And we'll talk a little later about how you can discern which part of your donor pool you want to pull into events, or which part of your donor pool you want to pull into writing proposals and so forth. But really the bottom line is most money comes from individuals who fund that which they feel really deeply about. And a lot of those dollars are raised through individual meetings with donors. So be thinking that you're going to have to figure out, and we're happy to help you do that, figure out who you want to donate, who you want to approach, and how you want to approach them, because individual meetings is really where most of the major dollars are raised. The plan needs also to include the point people who will help you carry out the tasks and the solicitations. You're going to need to include deadlines and implement fundraising strategies. The plan should also include conducting continuous research to identify and cultivate new prospective donors. And it also needs to include systems to track your donor meetings, discussions, timing, etc. You'll need to include a donor recognition chart that will help you clearly articulate and understood the benefits of giving for the donor. And of course, your financial documents need to be transparent and easily understood. Be sure to acknowledge how and when you will acknowledge prospective donor meetings and gifts with specific timeframes, and meet those timeframes. When we tell a donor we're going to meet with them on Wednesday of next week, we need to meet them on Wednesday of next week, not Thursday, not Tuesday, but Wednesday of next week. It's a sign of respect, and it's also a sign of your professionalism as well. And most important, you want to build a relationship with your donors by reporting back and inviting them to activities and events. All of these points, which are a lot, will help put together a really good plan. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is a copy, an example of a fundraising, a sample letter that you would send to people that you want to recruit for your fundraising team, your battalion, as we're calling it. This sample letter can help you recruit a team to raise awareness and funds for your projects. You will see that the first paragraph makes the connection between Chester County's storied history and today. And then the second paragraph and the third paragraph really articulate the need for your battalion of fundraisers. The third paragraph explains what you are asking the team members to do. And it's very important that when you prepare your letter, you include information about their role as being door openers and fundraisers. Don't want to surprise people with that task if they don't think they're signing up for it. You will receive some pushback. So be sure to be very transparent about that. And then finally, the last paragraphs are really a strong call to action. And remember also to include contact information. So use this as a template. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Here are the basics of a fundraising plan, and it's pretty basic, it's pretty straightforward, but these are the kinds of things that you're going to want to include in your plan. Now, we're going to list the basics here, but as we go through the slides, you'll see that we talk in depth more about what each of these basics include and how you can accomplish those tasks. So clearly you want to prioritize your case for support. Your case for donating. And it needs to be, as I've said earlier, persuasive and compelling and urgent. It needs to convey a sense of urgency so that the donor understands that we need to do this quickly. We need to do this now, not later. You want to clarify your case. Sorry, we just did that. You want to identify your target donor constituencies for each funding need, along with strategies to raise funds from each constituency. All of that will be compiled into a fundraising action plan, and we will use that to help gain volunteer commitment. Your plan is going to include what, who, timeframes, all of the pieces that a volunteer needs to be able to do their job well. You'll implement the plan, you'll check it, you'll evaluate it, and you'll update it as you move through the process. And there are two visuals at the bottom of this slide that show you what's involved in designing a process and how to develop a fundraising strategy. And they're in numerical order, and I won't go through them now, but I think you'll find them very helpful. The next 7 slides are going to take us step by step through the preliminaries of case development, target markets, and compiling your fundraising plan. So this is how to prioritize the funding needs and clarify the case. The first thing we need to do is clearly articulate what it is we are asking the donor to support. We need to use, as I've said before, strong, compelling, and urgent language so that it captures the donor's interest and it draws them in quickly and it engages them. You need to explain also what the need is to be met. Why? Why are we doing this? Why is it important? You also want to be able to calculate the plan, calculate your cost, benefits, and any other priorities or issues, and show clear evidence of support from others. And the reason we do this is because donors don't like to be the only one in. They like to know that there are other people working on this project that will help make this successful. So any other organization or individuals who are willing to lend their name to this, use that information as a leverage to engage your donors and let them know that they're not going to be alone. There's a whole team of people out there to do this. Decide for yourself how you will tell the donor what you need from him or her and how they fit into this project. And this is the point where you want to make it donor-centric. You want to really focus on the donor. You want to tell the donor what's in it for them. It might be meaningful involvement. It might be just simply participating. It might be recognition or anonymity. Some donors do not like to have their name out there. And also try to express the impact that their gift is going to make on the community. It's very important to do that. And explain how you will know that the goal has been accomplished. Are there any questions at this point or anything that Angela or Karen might like to add?
I was
A
just
lot to pack into 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Right?
I think also what you're saying is so critical, because if you're letting your volunteer team know very clearly what they're going to be doing, and then you provide all of these things on this list, then it gives them the comfort level to go out and to do it. I think the thing that most people are afraid of is actually asking. And so with all of these things sort of as backup, as knowledge that you've absorbed, and it's easier to do that.
You know,
Yeah.
Angela, you said if you provide your volunteer, and I'm really envisioning with a lot of the groups that we're working with on helping raise 250 projects, these are the discussions the volunteer fundraising battalion team has to have together for a bit to understand. And I
Correct.
saw that happen with us when we started to do 250. It really took us a while to figure out exactly what the most compelling things would be and how to state them. And we had to have a lot of discussions back and forth in order to crystallize this. And we'll share some of that stuff with you because you can, you're going to modify it to meet your needs.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
and then if
Yeah.
it's part of its whole, I heard the word yesterday, holistic. If it is that, then your ask is authentic and truly needed.
Right. You agree on what you're looking for and you know how to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I just
Very
make
good.
one other comment too?
Yes.
So this is something that we have with our Rotary Club when we're fundraising, is that you need to be clear about where that money is going and what it's going into. So if you're asking a corporation, sometimes they have a nonprofit component where they have a foundation that they're donating, but they typically have to donate to a 501c3. If you don't have a 501c3 available, then it comes out of a different pot that's more marketing. So banks run into that all the time, but you just have to be aware of that ahead of time so that you know how to answer the question. At least that's something that we run into with Rotary all the time. So if this is like a pot that's going into part of the township or whatever it is, you just need to be aware of that, because if it's not a 501c3, it may be where the bucket, where the money has to come out of the bucket. So.
Right. So there's got to be flexibility. You have to know your general parts and you have to talk and figure it through.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to sample case statements. We did we,
Well, this is just a sample we put into, again, some of the language that we've been finding is resonating as we're talking with corporate people, business leaders, and individual donors, as well as our elected officials. We just, so take it and run with it. Keep it brief. Talk about, and for us, we're trying to really hit the whole themes and why it's important to do it now. So that's just an example for you to not have to start from a blank paper with.
right. Yeah,
And we are calling them Let Freedom Ring events throughout 2026. It seems seems to be the national idea, so that Let Freedom Ring has a resonance to it, it seems. So just in case, head up. Oh, and Corinne, this was a chart you wanted about the why individuals are so important.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. This study is done every year by an organization, Giving USA, and it looks at how much money was raised the previous year through philanthropic contributions. Looks at where the donations came from and where the donations go. Now, remember when I said individuals are a large part of the donor population? Well, in 2023, 67% of donations came from individuals, 19% from foundations, 8% by bequest, and 7% from corporations. Sometimes when I present this to a group of people, they're amazed because they think corporations are the largest donors. Well, they're not. They're really not. Individuals are the largest group of donors. Now, where did the funding go? The largest organization, or the largest
Field of interest
to which fund is religion, and it has been for years. That doesn't change. You'll see that in the next slide. You'll see that it's a little less presently.
There you go. Over time.
Yeah, over time it is less, but the really daunting news for us that we need to overcome is the fact that 4% of that $557 billion is given to arts, culture, and humanities. That's what we mean when we say this is going to be difficult. It's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult. So we really need to make a very strong case for why this is an important project for donors to get involved with. Okay, next slide. Now, we talked about identifying target markets and approaches, and you're probably thinking, well, what's a target market? Well, a target market is taking a look at your donor pool and deciding where they are in terms of geography, age, income, wealth, psychographics, which is a social statistic, social status, interests, and opinions, their closeness to the cause. Are they an introducer, a door opener, or an asker? And what are your sources for the target markets? Well, there's individual gifts, foundation, corporate, and government funding. The gift sizes range from large to very small, and the approaches range from large groups to individual meetings to social media to events, email, text, talk by phone, and meeting in person. So you've got a range of opportunities here to be able to plug in your group of donors. And often what I advise people to do is take a look at your donor pool, stratify it by giving levels, what you know about each of the individuals in your giving levels, and then begin to focus largely on your larger donors and invest the time and the energy and the research into building the relationship with them so that you can make a strong and compelling appeal. And we'll talk a little more about that later on. Next slide, please. Your plan will include tactics, timeframes, due dates, assignments. When you develop the plan, you want to include all of these things. You also want to be sure to include the measurable aspects of your fundraising, the number of prospects, the number of donors and participants, the number of gifts, participants, and number of dollars. And you need to do this so that you understand how many prospects you need to determine how many gifts you're going to reap from that pool of donors. So it isn't just funny math, it really is a thoughtful math, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Are there any questions at this point or any comments about what we've talked about so far?
Keep going. I think it'll make sense once we get to the sample plan.
Okay, moving on. For your plan, you want to implement it, you want to check in, evaluate it, and update it. Now, here's something that I think is really important. You'll see in the red line on each column, you ascertain fundraising results and you ascertain friend-raising results. They're two very, very different things. Fundraising results are actual hard numbers, whether you reached your goal. You want to take a look at what is working, what isn't working, and you revise and update plans. But when you're friend-raising, that's a different thing. It's relational, it's not transactional, which means you're not sending a letter and asking a donor to make a gift and they send it back, or you're reaching them through social media. You're actually doing face-to-face. You're actually building a relationship with that pool of donors, where you get to know who they are, what they're interested in, why they like your organization, what they're willing to fund. And you can use that information to help educate them around the work that you do and to build that relationship. And the long-term aim of friend raising is raising money, not just for today, but raising money to be supportive of your organization over the long term. Any questions on that? Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the fun part, fundraising math. 20% of the dollars that you raise probably come from 80% of your donor pool. They're people who make small gifts. They probably make gifts through your annual campaign, or they might come to events. They might respond to a phone solicitation. They might respond to a phone call. But here's the thing. This is a very expensive way to raise money because you have to pay for the letters that go out. It takes a great deal of staff and volunteer time to write the letter and have your volunteers write little notes on it. Dear Karen, thank you so much for all of your support. Hope we can count on you again this year. All the best, Corrine. That kind of stuff takes time to organize and to do, and then you put it in the envelope and you send it out. So it's a higher cost and it's a modest financial return. Now, moving on to the next slide, the next box. 80% of the funds come from 20% of your donors, and that's relational fundraising. That's the one-to-one fundraising that we're talking about, because that 20% of the donors makes up 80% of the funds that you raise. So in fundraising, one wants to devote the most attention, time, and energy to that which is going to be most successful. So what I'm suggesting here is that we spend a lot of time looking at building relationships and meeting individually with donors. It's one-to-one, it's relational, and it's probably going to reap 80% of your fundraising results. It has the highest impact, these major gifts. It requires less upfront cash. It's lowest cost and highest returns. And it's really the only way to obtain major gifts. So it takes time over time, as Angela has said, to cultivate authentic and trusting relationships, but it is well worth the time and energy that we put into that. Thoughts, questions?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
but the 80-20 rule never changes.
Right?
It's always that true. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right.
And I'm
Karen?
going to posit that even if you're talking to individuals, some may end up making those gifts through their foundations, or maybe they're a business leader and they have corporate resources. And a lot of times, even if it's the governmental resources like the Department of whatever, and we'll hit lists, you still, as much as you can, need to talk through to understand their priorities so they understand your priorities, and you can find out if there's any match. So the hesitation to talk through this is what stops a lot of fundraising from being successful. So pick up the phone, arrange the meeting, send the email, arrange the meeting, but it's to arrange the meeting, whether it's by Zoom, if there's a distance involved, or in person is much, much, much better, or both. Once you meet a couple times in person, Zoom is appropriate, but do the talking, do the relationship building to build understanding of both sides.
Yeah.
It's the only way this is going to get done.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking about what Stacy said earlier, and the donor wants to know that you know what to do with the money.
Yeah. And also, you need in that conversation to find out what it is your donor wants out of this. You're asking them to participate. What's in it for them? So the more that we know about what the donor wants in return, the more we can highlight that and present it as we conduct the solicitation. Any questions at all? Okay, next slide. I love this one. I'll do anything but ask for money. It's not very helpful. But there are many ways. There are many ways to engage individuals in fundraising, and it's not always about making the ask. First of all, as a volunteer, you need to be a donor first. So you need to make your gift. Because if you haven't made your gift and you're soliciting someone and they ask you, as they are wont to do, well, Corinne, have you supported this organization? How much have you given? And if you respond with, well, I haven't made a gift yet, your credibility has decreased considerably. And the donor needs, the donor will think, well, she's part of the group's family. If she hasn't given, why should I give? So you need to make your donation first. That gives you important credibility. Volunteers can attend solicitation meetings to provide information and support without necessarily doing the ask. You can be there to support, you can be there to help tell the story. And I bet you over time, you'll get more comfortable making the ask. You can make introductions. Fundraising campaigns are successful not because there's so much, fundraising campaigns are not successful. That's what I'm trying to say. Because there's a lack of money. There's a lot of money out there. Fundraising campaigns are successful because there are enough people who know enough people to expand the universe of people out there making the ask and making introductions. So the more people you engage in this effort that you are trying to achieve, the more people involved, the more people you can reach, and the more people who are interested in your project, and the more people who are likely to be supportive. So as Karen said, open your mouth, have the conversation, get people involved, get them jazzed, make introductions, invite your friends to events, act as an ambassador, open doors. If you know someone that you think can be helpful, open that door to someone on your team who may be able to make a better pitch than you, but go with them and make that pitch together, because you have the relationship and they have the ability to make that ask in a comfortable way. Identify potential fundraising sources through your network. You must know people out there who will have an interest in this project. So reach out to them and draw them in. Okay, next slide. Keys to successful fundraising is a summary of key points that we want to include in our plan. We need a compelling purpose, stated in our case for support, that addresses personal needs and interests. This is about finding out what the donor is interested in and being able to address that. You want to include specific goals that will give people a clear understanding of what the donor is being asked to do. You need a solid plan for meeting those goals and completing the defined work, one that you can present very concisely, but will let that donor know this is a plan and it's a plan that's going to succeed. I was working with a nonprofit organization years ago, and they had a plan for blanketing the state of Pennsylvania with outreach to make their mission known and to invite people in. Their statewide plan cost $5,000. So I said to them, well, it's a great plan, but $5,000 is not going to support what it is you need to have done. So your plan needs to be realistic, is my point. Your plan needs to have the funding that's going to make it real. Don't shortcut your plan, the cost of your plan, because you think the donor won't fund it. Know that a donor is going to invest in a project that is well thought out, well planned, and has a good financial base for being successful. And finally, you want people to understand that their gift is going to have a meaningful impact. So you want to talk in terms of the community, you want to talk in terms of individuals, you want to talk in terms of the kind of difference that their gift is going to make. Meaningful cultivation and relationship development. We've talked so much about that, but it really, really is important. You need strong leadership to help figure out how you're going to manage the project, how you're going to get to the people that you want to get to, how you're going to communicate and engage people and encourage them to develop ownership in the project. You need to understand donors' motivations and frames of reference, where they're coming from and how they're looking at this. They're not seeing it the same way that we're seeing it. They're seeing it differently, and we need to understand what that is. Cultivation and solicitation stewardship has to be done by people who have already given, because it gives a level of authority and credibility to what you're doing. And once you've done that, don't be afraid to ask others to give and to get involved. It makes a huge difference. We mentioned earlier that you need evidence of other support. So be sure and talk about the other organizations you're partnering with, the organizations that are providing oversight on this project, the number of people who are involved. Make sure that you're able to really pull together that network and explain to it concisely. So that the donor understands this is a community event. This involves all of us to get involved. So obviously, opportunities for recognition are really important. I mean, donors give for all kinds of reasons, but we do know that donors like to have some kind of visibility, some kind of what's in it for me. So be thinking about what is in it for the donor with each of your projects. And of course, one of those would be an avenue for meaningful participation in a project that is going to impact the entire community for years on end. So be thinking about those kinds of things. Okay.
Can I add one other thing to this too?
Please do.
Yeah, let me tell you, the one thing that we have, like I said, when we're fundraising, is not to be afraid to ask for an amount. And I say this because a lot of people are uncomfortable making an ask, because maybe it's uncomfortable for them to ask for $5,000 because they would not feel comfortable asking for like a lot of money. You cannot ask based on your own comfort level. You have to know that there are donors that will be very generous. And exactly what you said, they have their own reasons for doing it. But if you've donated your $100, that's okay. But don't be afraid to ask for 500 or 1,000 or 5,000, because those people, there are people that are very comfortable with that number. They're not afraid of that number. And it's okay if they say no at $1,000 because maybe 500 is, and you can always back that up. So you typically can't ask for 100 and then ask for 500. You can certainly ask for 1,000 and then back off to 500. I'm just telling you.
Right.
That is
there've
so
been
true. So
So
true.
many times when I'm a ranger when it comes to asking. Would you consider a leadership gift? And then they'll say, what's a leadership gift? And I'll say anywhere from 50,000 to 500,000, depends on what your leadership temperament is.
Right.
And then you just have to be quiet, because even if it's totally out of range and it's only $5,000, they're flattered that you can think they can give that much.
Yes.
So you cannot over ask. I've never had a problem coming up with a higher range, but the lower range, you walk out and later on you find out, oh my God, they would have given $25,000, but I asked for 5,000.
And the quiet part is also powerful, not to try to fill the silence.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in Chester County, there's avenues of abundance. Yeah.
And they may come back to you after that quiet period and say, well, that's a lot of money. And then you might say to them, well,
can I pay it over 2 years? They'll ask.
Yep. There are ways of addressing that. And I know that in future conversations, future presentations, Jason will undoubtedly address
We'll
that.
be back. Yeah,
we'll be back. Yeah. Now, the next slides are a beautiful template for you to take away and make your own. It's 4 pages of how to introduce your financial goals, parameters, time commitments, all of the pieces that you need to put together your plan. It's here for you to use. It's here for you to take. Fundraising action steps. Pull from it. Use this document because this is gold. This is absolute liquid gold. So use it.
What we find is that when you're trying to recruit a group of people to help you, it helps to at least have a template that you can then make your own. And so we just put this together pretty straightforward. I call it a quick and dirty fundraising plan for 250 projects. So, and it's more of the tactical side, but the fact is you're going to need some money over time. You're going to have a modest handful of people who can help you raise. Everybody's got to be able to make their gift. And I don't care if it's $100 or $1,000 or $100,000, even $1. I mean, make your gift. And it's got to really be, you're going to need, I think, 250 is only a year and a few months away. So 2026 is on the horizon. A couple of hours a week just to help figure out who should be approached and to help coordinate a little bit and get some of the emails out and phone calls. And then just to get together and say, okay, what happened, what worked, what didn't, so that you can be constantly learning. And again, this is the fundraising math in a sense that Corinne alluded to. You can see when you look at it that you're going to get individuals to give small, medium, and large gifts from their own source of money or from their business or their corporation. And that's going to be most of your money right there. Everybody wants to start with the direct mail or the email or the special events. And that is such a tiny, tiny amount of money most organizations and groups raise. And the fact is, federal government officials as well as offices of the government will have appropriations that come out in budgets as well as state grants and contracts. You should start to apply now, knowing it's going to take at least a year to get an answer. And that way you can at least say, as you're working up here with the individuals and the corporations, yes, we have applied for the blah, blah, blah contract, or we've worked with our elected official and we're hopeful, but you can't bank on that now because there's so many other priorities out there and we haven't been able to loosen up the purse strings in the way that we really thought. We are not stopping by any means, but it's not as forthcoming as everybody had hoped. So we're going to keep going on this in this hopes that we can make regrants throughout the region, but we also are encouraging do this part as well. because we're doing this as well and trying to help on a local level. So I just put that together so we are willing to come on out and help groups that are doing fundraising for 250 projects get together and learn more about it, and to help support the making the pitch and the ask. So this is just a quick and dirty fundraising plan, so you have some place to start. And again, it'll be sent out so that you can just cut and paste and then make it your own. Okay. It's going to come soon. 250 is on the way, and it's all through 2026. And then, of course, we know through 27 with 9/11, 77, and the march-in and winter of, December 27 and 8. So we've got a long way to go and a lot of projects underway. I just wanted to leave you with that and let you talk some more to Corinne and whomever else and have some discussion, knowing that we have many more sessions and we will be more than happy to come out and work individually with your groups to help get this rolling. Does that help for today? Corinne, Angela, I'm going to leave you with the group. I'm going to zoom out to my other. So
Thank you, Karen.
thank you very much, everybody. Keep going onward, all right?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Discussion. Shall I leave it at Beth K, you can take over the slides or no? You just want to do the Q&A with the screen? Shall I get out of the slides?
Yeah, if you stop sharing, I'll pull something up if necessary.
Okay, there you go. Onward. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, thoughts, ideas?
I will just say one thing that, and Jason can also
Michelle, but she's running late.
back up on this, is that what we find is that people think it's a one and done donation, meaning 2026 is it. When we say, come back to them and say 2026 is just the start.
Yeah.
Because we're looking to build legacy and use tourism, heritage tourism in particular, as an economic driver. That seems to be something that a donor responds to.
What Angela is referring to is sort of when she and I started working together on this several months ago, is that on the corporate side, a lot of corporations or corporate leaders were saying, well, is this sort of like a once and done sort of situation? And I sort of feel like as though that's sort of like a loaded question, but a lot of times we'll say, no, this will continue on well past July 2026 for a lot of these projects. So I think that gives them some type of security in terms of, their grant or their corporate gift really helping, not just a once and done situation. It's not transactional. And that kind of helps us guide the relationship and the conversation as we keep going there. So that's a good point, Angela.
I watched Donna, can't remember her last name, give a presentation on the state of historic organizations in our region. And one of the things that was so daunting about it was the need for things like visitor amenities, up-to-date facilities, things that we all take for granted that smaller organizations they don't have the funding for. And these are repositories of our history, of our past. So it's really important that we keep this stuff alive and available.
And
so
there's a lot of
talk
about civic engagement. And if you're going to engage individuals and families, you need to have ADA bathrooms, you need to have signage with a QR code on it, things that can grab people's attention, whether they're granddad in the back with a map or the kid in the front with the phone. You have to be able to have things that people can access the story from wherever they are in a lot of ways.
A perspective from my point of view, as a background fundraiser for the last, almost 20 years doing this, is that, most of the presentation today talked about, major gifts, annual gifts, but I do always, I'm an ambassador for this, but a planned gift is something that, certainly can't be counted, in your financials today, as you talk to your CFOs and your directors of finance. But it's a way of sort of getting your donors or your prospects involved on this, what they call a philanthropic learning curve. So basically, getting the donor to kind of be involved with the organization in the beginning. And then, of course, the relationship gets to the point you really want them to make a planned gift or a blended gift, where it's a major gift and a planned gift together. So always remember in your mind, in your conversations with donors, don't be afraid to sort of probe and ask questions about in your relationship with them about, what does life mean to them? What does the organization mean to them? How are they so connected and trusted to your organization? And that could be an opening for maybe a planned gift later that you can ask for. And don't be afraid to ask. I'm going to talk about that next month at our seminar, in terms of just kind of providing some ways you can kind of get past that barrier. I think they call it the imposter syndrome, where something's telling you can't ask someone for money. Yes, you can, and you can do it really well, as long as you're prepared for it.
There's something I didn't mention that I think is important, is that there's a generational difference between among your donor population. There are the older folks, and they probably don't respond real well to texts or social media. They're going to expect a letter or a phone call or a visit. So be aware of the generational differences too when you approach your donors, and think through what would be the best way to reach them. What is it that will respond with them, resonate with them?
Don't send a Venmo link.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you all so much for coming. This was great fun. And we're here to help you. So if you have questions, get back to the Community Foundation, go to these other programs. Beth has my contact information. Give me a call. I'm happy to talk you through whatever problems you may have. It would be my pleasure to be of help. Okay. Thank you all so much.